Fellow Athenians, we stand at a crossroads. Our decision today will echo through the ages.
An Athenian councilor named Lycidas stands up in a crowded assembly on the island of Salamis. He raises his hand and makes a logical suggestion. Maybe we should listen to the Persian peace offer. The crowd doesn't boo. They don't argue. Instead, the other councilors surround him and stone him to death right on the floor of the debate hall. But it doesn't end there. The women of Athens, hearing the commotion, rush to Lycidas' house, drag his wife and children into the street, and stone them to death too. This isn't a scene from a horror movie. This was the reality of 479 BC. The Greeks were done with diplomacy. They were traumatized, homeless, and bloodthirsty. The 300 Spartans at Thermopylae were dead. Athens was a smoking ruin, and the only language left was violence. This brutal mindset sets the stage for the final showdown. This is the Battle of Plataea, the story of how the Greeks stopped being victims and became butchers. Before diving into this forgotten story, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history that challenge popular narratives, consider hitting that like button and subscribing. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. That murder of Lycidas proves one thing: the Greeks were desperate. King Xerxes had left, but the threat hadn't. He left behind General Mardonius, a man far more dangerous than the king. Mardonius wasn't a tourist, he was a shark. He sat in the plains of Boeotia with 300,000 of the empire's deadliest killers, effectively holding a knife to the throat of Greece. He burned Athens a second time just to prove a point. I am still here. The Athenians, living as refugees, had reached their breaking point. They sent runners to Sparta with a message that wasn't a plea for help. It was a threat. They told the Spartan ephors, if you don't march now, the Athenian navy joins Persia, and when that happens, your walls won't save you.
It was the wake-up call of the century. The Spartans had been dragging their feet, hiding behind the Isthmus of Corinth, hoping the problem would go away. But faced with the prospect of a Persian-Athenian alliance, the Spartan war machine finally kicked into gear. And when Sparta moves, the ground shakes. In a single night, the ephors emptied the city. 5,000 Spartiates suited up. But here's the detail that shows their intent. They brought the slaves. For every Spartan, 7 helots were armed and ordered to march. That's 35,000 conscripted servants marching alongside their masters. A column of 45,000 men vanished before sunrise. When the Athenian envoys woke up to complain, the ephors simply said, "You can stop shouting. The army is already at the border, and this is where we need to stop and correct a massive misconception." In pop culture, the Persians are depicted as a mindless horde. That is propaganda, pure and simple. The army Mardonius kept in Greece was nothing like Xerxes' bloated parade force. He'd trimmed the fat. What remained was a lean, professional killing machine. These were the immortals who broke the Spartan line at Thermopylae. These were Saka horse archers who could put an arrow through a greaves slit while riding at full gallop. Mardonius wasn't relying on numbers. He was relying on speed, mobility, and superior tactics. When scouts reported the Spartans had left the Peloponnese, Mardonius smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. He withdrew to Plataea, choosing his ground with chess grandmaster precision. He set up along the Esopus River in flat, open plains. Why there? Because Greek hoplite tactics had a fatal flaw. They were slow. The phalanx was unstoppable, yes, but it turned like a battleship. On flat ground, Mardonius's cavalry could dance around them and pepper them with arrows until they broke. The Greeks arrived and looked down from the foothills at the ocean of Persian tents. Pausanias, the Spartan regent, did the only smart thing. He stopped. They hugged the rocky slopes where cavalry couldn't reach them. It became a staring contest. Days passed. Mardonius grew impatient. He sent his cavalry commander, Mecistius, to test them. Now Mecistius deserves his own movie. He was the most popular man in the Persian army, riding a stallion with a bridle made of solid gold. His cavalry rode up the slopes, hooting and jeering, calling the Spartans women. 300 Athenians volunteered to go down and fight. an echo of the 300 Spartans. In the chaos, an arrow struck Mecistius's horse. The beast threw him to the ground. The Athenians swarmed. But here's the detail: they couldn't kill him. He wore impenetrable scale armor under his purple tunic. Swords bounced off, until one soldier jammed a spear through his helmet's eye hole. The giant fell. The Greeks paraded his body through the ranks. It was a massive morale boost, but Pausanias knew this was just the prologue. The real war was about to begin. It's now August. The Greek sun is a physical weight, hammering down on men encased in 60 pounds of bronze armor. Sweating is constant. Dehydration is a faster killer than any Persian arrow. Pausanias, the Spartan regent, looked at his army and realized they had a problem. They were positioned on the high ground, safe from cavalry charges, but they were far from a reliable water source. Emboldened by their small victory against Mecistius, Pausanias ordered a maneuver. The entire Greek line, all 100,000 men, shuffled down from the safety of the foothills toward the Asopus River, settling near a vital water source called the Gargaphia Spring. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It wasn't. Mardonius watched them move. He didn't attack. He didn't send his infantry charging across the river to meet them in a glorious collision. Why would he? He saw exactly what Pausanias had done. The Greeks had just extended their neck. They were now closer to the enemy, but more importantly, their supply line stretching back through the mountain passes was now exposed. Mardonius snapped his fingers and unleashed his cavalry again, but this time their mission wasn't to kill soldiers, it was to strangle them. In a masterstroke of logistical warfare, Persian horsemen circled around the Greek army and struck the mountain passes behind them. They intercepted a massive convoy of 500 supply wagons bringing food from the Peloponnese. They didn't just capture the wagons, they slaughtered the oxen and the drivers, leaving the Greek army completely cut off from bread. Suddenly, the Battle of Plataea wasn't about fighting, it was about starving. For 8 days, the armies sat. No water, no food. The Greeks couldn't advance into the open without being massacred by cavalry. They couldn't retreat without looking like cowards. Panic rippled through the coalition. Pausanias realized if they stayed one more day, the army would dissolve. He ordered a night retreat. It required perfect silence and coordination. It was a solid plan. But plans are the first casualty of reality. The center of the Greek line panicked and sprinted all the way back to Plataea, taking themselves out of the fight. But on the right wing, the problem wasn't fear, it was pride. Captain Amompharitus refused to retreat. He told Pausanias he wouldn't shame Sparta by running from the strangers. Imagine it. 2 a.m., pitch black. The supreme commander having a screaming match with his own captain. The argument got physical. Amompharitus picked up a boulder and slammed it at Pausanias's feet. With this pebble, I cast my vote not to flee from the strangers. In Spartan democracy, they voted with pebbles. He was mockingly using a boulder to vote for death. Pausanias finally decided to leave him behind, hoping he'd follow. The main column marched south. Eventually, Amompharitus cracked and ordered his men to catch up, but it was too late. The sky turned gray. The sun crested the mountains. From the Persian camp, sentries saw the Greeks scattered and disorganized. Mardonius stepped out and laughed. "Are these the men who never run? Look at them!" He pointed at the red cloaks and yelled, "Get them!" The dam broke. Persian cavalry surged forward. Infantry ran screaming behind them. No order, just a stampede of hunters chasing wounded prey. Pausanias looked back and saw the horizon fill with dust. He was alone. 10,000 Spartans and 35,000 slaves against the entire Persian Empire. The Battle of Plataea had officially begun, and the Spartans were caught flat-footed. Mardonius ordered his archers to plant wicker shields and darken the sky. The Spartans, caught mid-march, were stranded on open slopes. Persian cavalry swarmed the flanks, arrows rained down. The natural instinct would be to charge or run. Pausanias did neither. He ordered the army to halt and drop to one knee. Then he turned his back on the enemy. He called for a priest, He needed to perform a sacrifice. In the Greek world, you didn't fight until the gods gave permission. A goat was dragged forward. Pausanias slit its throat and inspected the liver. The signs were bad. The gods said no. So Pausanias waited. Imagine being a soldier in that line. You're crouching behind your shield. You hear the thud, thud, thud of arrows hitting bronze. You hear screams as arrows find gaps. He has wicker or animal skins. He's a slave dying for a master who oppresses him. But the arrows don't discriminate. The helots died in droves. For them, this wasn't discipline, it was insanity. One tragic casualty was Lycidas, the most beautiful man in the Greek army. An arrow plunged into his side before the battle even started. Dying slowly, his last words were about frustration. I do not mind dying for Greece. What I mind is that I die without having struck a blow. This went on for an eternity. Another goat, another bad omen. Wait. The Persians moved closer, pouring fire into the motionless ranks. The Tagians couldn't take it anymore, ready to charge without orders. Pausanias looked up to the temple of Hera, tears streaming down his face. He screamed a prayer, begging the goddess not to let them die in shame. Finally, a third goat was sacrificed. The liver was good. The omens shifted. Pausanias stood up. He didn't need a speech. He simply raised his spear. The iron discipline that had kept 10,000 men frozen suddenly released. The statues came to life. The Spartans exploded forward. The pent-up rage of an hour of dying was unleashed. The collision was not the clang of swords. It was the crunch of wood shattering under bronze. When Pausanias lowered his spear, the Spartans didn't just charge, they surged forward like a dam bursting. They crashed into the Persian line with such kinetic force that the front ranks of immortals were physically lifted off their feet and trampled. The wicker wall disintegrated instantly. Now the battle entered the phase the Greeks called the othismos, the shoving match. And this is where the technological gap between East and West became fatal. The Persians were brave. Let's be very clear about this. They were not cowards. Herodotus vividly describes them grabbing Spartan spears with bare hands and snapping the wooden shafts in a desperate attempt to disarm the enemy. They threw themselves at shields with daggers and short swords, trying to find gaps. They fought with the ferocity of lions. But courage cannot defeat physics. Persians wore linen tunics or scale armor designed to stop arrows, not heavy thrusts. Spartans were encased in bronze from chin to knee. When a Persian struck a Spartan, his blade often glanced off the curved shield or the breastplate. When a Spartan struck a Persian, he went through bone. Once spears shattered, Spartans drew their xiphos swords. They moved with robotic efficiency. Stab to the face, bash with shield, step over corpse, repeat. The helots swarmed in with javelins and knives, finishing the wounded. It was a meat grinder. In the center was Mardonius on his white charger, surrounded by his elite guard. He was the glue holding the Persian army together. The Spartans realized this was a headhunting mission. The phalanx ground toward the man on the white horse. History records the name of the killer, Arimnestos. His name means the one who is remembered, and he earned it. He spotted Mardonius fighting from his saddle. Arimnestos lunged. The spear pierced Mardonius's chest. The general was knocked from his horse and slammed into the dirt. He didn't get up. The moment Mardonius hit the ground, the battle changed. The Persian roar faltered. Ancient armies were like snakes. Cut off the head, the body dies. The immortals broke and ran. But the most telling moment came from Artabazus, second in command with 40,000 men in reserve. He was a survivor. He watched Mardonius fall. He saw the Spartan machine. He did the math. Instead of charging to save the day, he turned around and marched straight out of Greece. He abandoned the army. It was a calculated betrayal that sealed everyone's doom. The remaining Persians routed, fleeing to their wooden stockade. They barred the gates, hoping the walls would save them. They just trapped themselves in a cage with a tiger. Spartans were terrible at siege warfare. The Persians held them off briefly. But then the Athenians arrived. Unlike Spartans, Athenians were engineers. They breached the wall. Through that breach poured the full fury of the Greeks. What followed was not a battle. It was slaughter. This is the part history books gloss over. The Greeks didn't take prisoners. They didn't accept surrenders. They moved through the camp and killed everything that moved. It was methodical extermination. The frustration of Thermopylae, the anger over Athens burning, the misery of thirsty nights, all taken out on trapped Persians. The ground became a sludge of mud and blood ankle deep. Of the nearly 260,000 Persians, ancient sources claim only 3,000 survived. While those numbers are exaggerated, the reality is clear. An entire generation of Persian manpower was wiped out in a single afternoon. When the screaming stopped, a strange silence fell over the carnage. The dust settled on the greatest graveyard the Greek world had ever seen. But as the Spartans and Athenians wiped the blood from their eyes, they began to realize something else. They were standing on a fortune. The Persian camp wasn't just a military base, it was a mobile palace. Mardonius had inherited the personal tent of King Xerxes when the monarch fled, and he had lived in imperial splendor. We are talking about gold mixing bowls, silver tables, tapestries woven with purple dye worth more than a soldier's life, and chests overflowing with minted darics. For the Greeks who lived relatively simple lives, especially the Spartans whose currency was literally heavy iron bars to discourage hoarding, this was like walking into a fever dream. There's a famous story from Herodotus that perfectly captures the absurdity of this moment. Pausanias, still covered in the grime of battle, walked into Mardonius's tent. He looked at the silk hangings and the gold-plated furniture. He saw the Persian chefs terrified and cowering in the corner. Instead of killing them, he gave a bizarre order. Prepare a meal exactly as you would have prepared it for Mardonius. The chefs went to work. They roasted exotic meats, baked soft breads, opened amphorae of sweet wine, and laid out a feast fit for a god on silver platters. The tent filled with the smell of saffron and roasting fat. Then Pausanias turned to his own Spartan cooks and gave a second order. Prepare a standard Spartan mess. The Spartan cooks threw some lentils, pork blood, and vinegar into a pot and boiled it into the infamous black broth, a meal so unappetizing that a visitor once joked, "Now I understand why Spartans are not afraid to die." Pausanias placed the meals side by side. Persian luxury on the left, brown sludge on the right. He called his commanders and laughed. Look at how he lived. He had all this luxury, yet he came here to rob us, who have so little. It was a moment of profound irony. The Persians had everything to lose and nothing to gain. The Greeks had nothing to lose but their freedom. That contrast between the soft luxury of the East and the hard poverty of the West became the propaganda image that would define Western identity for centuries. But looking back, it was also a warning. Pausanias stood there, mocking the gold, acting the part of the incorruptible Spartan. But history tells us that as he stared at that gold, something inside him broke. The man who mocked the feast would soon become addicted to the taste of it. The victory at the Battle of Plataea saved Greece, but it doomed Pausanias. The seeds of his own destruction were planted right there amidst the laughter and the loot. While the blood was drying in the dirt of Plataea, something almost supernatural was happening across the Aegean Sea. Legend tells us that on the exact same afternoon, the Greek fleet launched an amphibious assault on the Persian remnants at Mycale on the coast of Asia Minor. They burned the Persian ships, slaughtered their garrison, and effectively ended the Persian wars in a single synchronized double tap. The great King Xerxes had no army left in Europe and no navy left to bring them there. The West was saved. But history has a cruel sense of humor. The end of the war was simply the beginning of the tragedy. Within a decade, rumors reached Sparta. Pausanias was no longer acting like a Spartan. He wore Persian robes instead of red cloaks. He ate banquets instead of black broth. He hired Persian bodyguards. The man who avenged Lycidas was cosplaying as the enemy he destroyed. Rumors said he was secretly writing to Xerxes, offering to betray Greece for the king's daughter. The savior of civilization had become a traitor. He allegedly stirred up the Helots, promising freedom if they'd help overthrow Sparta. That was unforgivable. To a Spartan, arming Helots was worse than conspiring with Persia. The Ephors set a trap and got proof. The victor of Plataea ran for his life. He sprinted to the temple of Athena, claiming sanctuary. The Ephors couldn't drag him out without angering the gods, so they came up with a terrifyingly Spartan solution. They ordered the doors bricked up. And here's the detail that hurts most. As Spartans gathered stones, an old woman walked through the crowd. It was Pausanias' mother. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She simply picked up a heavy stone, placed it on the threshold, and walked away. By placing that first stone, she voted for his death, choosing Sparta's honor over her son's life. For days, the hero of Plataea sat in darkness. No food, no water. Just breathing and incense he could no longer offer. Just before his heart stopped, the Ephors dragged his emaciated body into sunlight so he wouldn't pollute the holy ground. He died a prisoner, a traitor, a disgrace. This is why we don't make movies about Plataea. It's messy, complicated. The hero becomes a villain. The good guys commit war crimes. Victory leads to corruption. Compare that to Thermopylae. Thermopylae is clean. The 300 die beautiful, noble, morally pure, because they didn't live long enough to be corrupted. We prefer the beautiful defeat to the ugly victory. We prefer the martyr Leonidas to the conqueror Pausanias. But we must not forget the truth. Thermopylae was a symbol, but Plataea was the salvation. At Plataea, 10,000 Spartans and their allies did the impossible. They looked the apocalypse in the eye and didn't blink. They proved free people fighting for their homes could break a global superpower's back. It was brutal, savage, and necessary. So next time you hear about the 300 Spartans, remember the 10,000 who came after them. Remember the vengeance, remember the victory, and remember the price.